Welcome welcome all to this track guide series. We got Fuji this week. Quite a nice track. I'd give it maybe a 7 out of 10, I reckon. It's a proper circuit, it's nice and wide. Racing should be pretty good. Some interesting technical corners. Nothing that special about it, I mean? It's no Spa, let's face it, but it's alright. It's alright. I reckon we'll have a good time here. Right. The time we've got is a 1:36 dead. Let's go through it, shall we? So it's quite technical towards the end of the circuit. It's pretty straightforward to start. So we've got a nice straight braking zone to start with. We're looking at kind of between the 150 and the 100, I suppose. Definitely before the curb. So as we see, it's about here. Okay. So with this track, there's quite a few corners like this where there's no definitive braking zone. You have to judge it by other points. Okay, so although there's no point here where you brake, you can tell from the distance you are from that curb where you have to brake. Okay, and we can brake nice and hard. So I'm up to about 80%. And then as normal, number one rule: as you start to turn that wheel, you come off the brake. Okay. Off the brake, and we want to take a nice chunk of this curb. Okay, so we're taking a good old chunk of it. All right, it's the quickest way. Okay, yeah, it is what it is. Okay, and then we're back on the throttle, and we are drifting out. Now we can drift quite a long way out here. I think you need to keep basically your right hand wheels on the red and white. Okay, so this is definitely fine. Okay, you can probably track out a little bit more. Okay, if you want to know exactly how far you can go on places, you can have a look at the rules. Okay, so turn 1, the edge of the red and white curb in on corner exits. As we see here, 4 wheels off here is an off track, so this is more than fine. Okay, coming down into the next corner. Again, nice straight braking zone, but again, there's no definitive point really. It's almost between the 100 and the 50. Okay, so again, I kind of look at the 50. I'm like, I want to brake before the 50. Okay, and we're not braking too hard here because even though it's straight, you kind of want to keep the car nice and settled. You don't want to overheat the front tires too much for this quite aggressive turning. Okay, so with there, as we start to turn in, we obviously lift off, and then I kind of like to get back on power before the apex here. Okay, just to lift the nose up over the curb. So there we are. Just lift it up a little bit, and then here you can run quite wide. Now, this next section, there's tons of different ways to do it. Okay, now you could literally take that previous corner even faster and go right out on the right hand curb here. Okay, but that means you're kind of then you're right on the inside for the long right hander. Okay, and this long right hander, so many ways to do it. I've gone quite narrow here. You can definitely go a bit wider. Okay, not quite sure why I did it this time, but I look for these first white lines. Okay, and they're my kind of point of like, right, I need to start shedding some speed. Okay, so at this point we're up to 5th gear. Okay, I'm just trying the brake a little bit, and again I go a little bit wider here to then open up the corner a bit, and we're back on throttle. But this corner is all about feel. You're feeling the grip. Am I going a bit too slow? Am I going a bit too fast? And you're just balancing it out really. You definitely want that first little bit of brake. Okay, so where the first line is, you go flat until then, little bit of brake, trail it in, feel the car. When you feel like you're going to make the corner fine, then we get back on throttle. Okay, so I'm back on full throttle, but again I've had to lift out a little bit. That's because I didn't quite make the inside here. I normally like to hook this up a little bit. Okay, didn't do it on this occasion, but because I've carried a little bit more speed, and it's again, this is one of those corners you don't have to be that precise, but you just have to be on the limit of what the car's capable of in terms of tyres. You just have to be on it. Okay, even though the line doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Okay. Now here, again, you can carry more speed through there, and you can end up further left from where we are. But that means your braking zone into here is going to be more angled. Okay. Now, in an ideal world, we would love a nice straight braking zone into here, but that's not always possible because it means we'd be too slow on that last corner. So it's fine to brake at an angle here, okay? but we're still trying to brake straight. Okay, so I've kind of turned it a little bit, but we're not going up to that full kind of 80% brake because that would unsettle the car too much. Okay, so again, we're looking at that 50. Okay, now I'm in fourth here. Did I go up to fifth? No. So we're in fourth gear all the way around. Sometimes when you carry like a lot of speed through there, you might end up in fifth, but then that's when you'd end up much wider and you're then changing down. But carrying fourth through there is fine. Okay, then we're down 2 gears here. Okay, so again, not braking too hard. Ideally, we want to find this apex point because there's quite a camber here and it does help pull you around, but often you might miss this because if you've gone a bit too wide and you're braking at more of an angle, you can't quite brake as hard, and then you're gonna miss the apex. It's not end of the world with this corner because it's so wide on exit. You can kind of get away with it a little bit, especially in racing situation. But ideally, that's nice. Hooks up a bit of camber, and even then got a little bit of a twitch on, a little bit of a power slide, just for the cameras, you understand. But yeah, and then just drifting out wide. You can go even wider than this again. Not really much point. Now here we want to cut down the amount of miles we're doing. Okay, so we definitely do not run out wide to the left, even though it looks like I'll just drift out wide to the left. That's the racing line. It's not. You've got to nice and tight. Cut down the amount of miles you're doing. Yet another corner where we haven't really got much of a marker. For some reason, the 100 and the 50 are on the right-hand side. Maybe they think if it was on the left-hand side, it would be too hard to see because it's so far away. But we're kind of looking, again, I look at the 50, but I'm braking before the 50, okay? So we're braking about here. This is probably as we pass 100, okay? So we see, I sometimes forget, you guys can't see on the right-hand side triple screen, but we've got the 100 here. And this is pretty much where we're braking. But again, I'm looking at the 50, okay? We're braking, and this isn't the best line through here, really. I think I've carried too much speed. So as you can see, just kind of drifted wide of the apex. I'm understeering here. I've tried to get back on throttle, and it just hasn't worked. Got a bit of twist, got a bit funny, but so that's not ideal. But it's a pretty straightforward corner. You know what I mean? You can work that one out for yourselves. Okay, coming to here. This is where it gets really tricky. Okay, we love that word, but it is tricky. Okay, and you might want to put a bit of brake bias forward if you're struggling. Okay, because there's a lot of trail brakey corners where we're kind of braking and turning, and the rear's getting a bit sketchy. Okay, so here we're in fourth gear, and I come down 2 gears. Some people might back carry third. I'd be surprised. So I'm down 2 gears, and it's a bit sketchy. Okay, you probably don't need to be right out wide for this one. Okay, but we're braking not too hard. Okay, about your 50-60%. We're just training it in, and then I like to get back on throttle again before this curb because it does just help lift the car up a bit, and with the Ferrari, the throttle helps to rotate the car a little bit, So we're on throttle, and I like to hit that green bit. Okay. It just helps. Oops, sorry about that. It just helps to rotate the car a little bit. Okay, if you just hook up that inside curb on the green bit, and this is the most technical bit. This is the bit that's kind of the most fun, really, but it's also pretty tricky. So we're full throttle, and then when we get to this point, we kind of want to run the tyres along this curb, okay? Along the curb, and I'm looking at this point here on the kind of the last bit of the curb, but although I'm braking slightly before it again, okay? But that's what I'm looking at, and then when I get to a point before it, that's my reference point, okay? So again, we're up into third gear by this point. I wouldn't change up, anymore. Don't change more than you have to. So at this point, we're braking. Now, the apex is all the way miles round to the left, okay? The idea is that we're going to drift the car out wide and then back in, okay? And we're going to do that by trail braking the whole way. Now, so if you brake too heavy here, you're just going to be too slow, okay? So you're going to have to then get back on throttle So it's a very delicate balance here, but you don't want to be too fast going in, because the minute you start to brake too hard, the rear's going to come around. So we've got a real delicate act here. So we're just on the brake, coming off a little bit, As you can see here, we're just trailing just that tiny bit, just to get the rear in and just shave off a little bit of speed, okay? So we don't need to be all the way out to the outside, okay? That would just be too long of an arc, okay? But this is fine, okay? And then we're going to spine this apex. Now I've got triple screens, which makes it a lot easier to spot this, okay? Now, if you're on a single screen or an ultra wide where you can't quite see it, it's practice, okay? When I used to race on single screens at like Silverstone, and you've got like the blind left-hander farm, I think it's called, it's just practice. You just have to keep going into the corner, until you just know where that apex is. Because if you can't see it, it has to be done on pure instinct, you know? But as I say, luckily I've got triple screens so I can see it, and I'm back on throttle here, because obviously, you know, again, different ways you can do this, but I like to get the car kind of stopped, rotated, and then on throttle nice and early. Okay, you mean you can carry more speed and trail brake more into it, but then you're risking the rear kind of losing a bit, yeah? So we could be faster here, 100%, and be trailing all the way in, but then the rear's getting a bit loose, whereas here, we're on throttle nice and early, we're taking a lot of this curb, okay, and we're making back all the time later on. Yeah, so that is just perfect. Well, I did get a little bit loose, you know, but it's all right, you know. It's not end of the world. So I'm just going to run you through that section at half speed, just to you get like an idea. So again, we're just coming in. It's easy to run too wide there. So it's just about judging your speed. Running the curb. Gentle trail braking. Coming in. And then picking up the throttle. Helps you rotate the car over that curb. Got a little bit loose, but we're fine. Okay? But now this next section is even blinder. You know what I mean? Like, we're heading the wrong way here. The way we're heading now is the complete opposite way of where we want to be. Okay? It is what it is. It's just a very long radius corner. Okay? So we're up into third gear. I don't tend to change into fourth. You might better change to fourth. Again, different ways to do this corner. You can run a lot wider, okay? But you're doing a lot more meters, okay? And it kind of means you're faster when you're then trying to trail brake in, okay? I'd keep it a bit narrower, okay? And again, we just trail brake a little bit, turning in, and then getting back on throttle as soon as we can. Okay, obviously, the wider you are, kind of the better exit you're going to get. So if you're following a car, and he's maybe defending this inside bit, you can go wider and cut back on him, okay? I mean, the main overtaking spot here is the start-finish straight, obviously. It's the longest bit. So if you're defending, this is probably, you might want to be even tighter, because it's very easy. If a car's running wide here, you can just go up the inside, okay? And you just park yourself on the apex, and then away the straight you go, okay? So this is kind of like a middle-ish sort of line, but the one thing we really have to do here is just get on the throttle nice and early, which means getting that car rotated, getting it rotated to the point here where we're like, right, we can get back on the throttle, okay? So we're on the throttle here even. Yeah, just to get a bit of, you know, with the Ferrari, it's quite nice the way that when you put your foot on the throttle, it just rotates that car a little bit. So rotating it, and we're there. Don't worry about getting too much on this curb. If anything, the curb might just unsettle that car a little bit. And the last thing you want is any sort of oversteer through here, because any sort of oversteer, and you just kill speed, okay? So you don't want any sort of oversteer. See, I'm going right. I'm sort of 60, 70%. And then we're on it. Okay, traction control kicks in a little bit, which is fine. And we want to make sure we're carrying so much speed through that we are pushing ourselves right to the edge of the curve here, okay? Yeah, we don't want to be kind of going too slowly where we can just kind of cut here. And again, if you don't have triples for this corner, okay, like, so from here, with triples, I can see the apex here, okay? obviously on a single screen, like what you can see now on YouTube, you just can't see it. Okay, so you just have to know where it is by doing lots of laps. Okay, and doing active reset. If you don't know what active reset is, I would highly recommend doing it. Okay, especially for this last sector, these last few corners. Get your active reset point set up and just go through it like 20 times. You know what I mean? It's where a lot of the time is made up here. Okay, turn in, full throttle, and there we go. That is the lap of 1:36 dead. So this will be the main overtaking zone here. Obviously, if you're the car in front, you want to be defending the inside. Or overtaking, you want to just drive up to the side. But yeah, there we go. Racing should be pretty good here. Splits probably won't be that high. It's kind of getting later on in the season now. So it's, grids will drop off a little bit. Plus Fuji's got a new track. Not a lot of people have it. It's not like a massively exotic track, but it's got a nice track. I quite like it. What other advice? I'd say for qualifying, the second lap can be better. Okay. In your first lap in qualifying, you'll probably find the first corner braking, you'll lose a tenth or two there. But it's not worth sacrificing that first lap, doing like another just slow lap round. I would, get as good a time as you can on your first lap, And then second lap may be better. Tyres may start to go off towards the end. Okay. Again, in a race situation, just keep those rears under control. But track temps aren't too high here. And the track surface isn't too abrasive, so tyres should be in a pretty good shape by the end. Okay, well, enjoy your racing. Let me know how it goes in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that good YouTubey stuff. We're back again next week.